Well, hi, everybody. We begin with our standard disclaimer here. We're talking about stuff that applies to the markets and making money in the markets. Anytime we mention money, we've got to give our disclaimer that says, remember that you can lose money as well as make money in the markets, and past performance does not guarantee future results. And so that's one of the points of focus that we do want to maintain here as we spend a little time together here today. Thank you for joining me for Gann Power Video Number 2. We're talking about time here today, and there are three key components to understanding the trends in the markets. And of course, we can take advantage of those trends to develop rewarding trading opportunities for ourselves. Those three components are price, time, and volume as well. And so we're going to focus here a little bit on those dynamics, but specifically on this first one, which is time. Now, this is an average stock market chart. What the stock is, we're not terribly concerned about at this particular point here, but what we're looking at the bottom of this chart, we put in that dotted line horizontally as the time axis that we typically use when we're looking at market charts. So from left to right, we get the duration of time, and in this case, if we look down in the lower left-hand corner there, we can see this is back starting in July of 2019 and extending forward, and we can see the progress of this particular dynamic throughout that period of time. Of course, the corollary here is that if we add this vertical factor, we have the fluctuations up and down. These represent changes in the price of the stock that we're looking at here in our example for the purposes here. So we've got time and price working together, and of course we're looking at all of this through the eyes of that market master W.D. Gann. W.D. Gann, who was one of the foremost traders in the first half of the 20th century. We're focusing this series of Gann Power videos on the work of this remarkable trader and master of the markets. He had some very amazing market insights, and so what we're doing here is talking about Gann in preparation for our brand new course that we're going to be launching very soon here, Gann Plan Trading Success 102. We'll be telling you more about that as time moves forward, but today we want to focus on what Gann taught his students. He says that the biggest profits can be made if you're trading in the markets when price and time come together. And that was his core concept. The two of them work in tandem. We have to have them both in line with each other, price and time coming together. So this was what Gann put his primary focus on. He talked about trading volume and other things as well, but first and foremost, he said time is the most important factor if we're going to be able to position ourselves in the markets in ways that can be to our advantage, that we can actually use to make money in the markets. Now, time is a very interesting concept because it can be connected in a variety of ways here, right? But Gann taught that price goals in the markets, wherever we're looking for the priced action to take us, they cannot be reached until the relevant time cycles have also reached their points of completion. In other words, if the time isn't up yet, the price won't get there. And so that was kind of a rough paraphrase of what Gann was saying here. So it's very interesting to look at his work. Now, understanding time. When we're talking about time, okay, so when we're talking about time, it's grounded in an awareness of duration. And so when we start to listen to something, and there's a sequence going on, we begin to anticipate when the next occurrence will come. Can we turn that one off? Okay, thank you. Okay, hopefully we're done with that, right? Okay, but anyway, we have this concept of duration. Something happens. How long will it take till the next thing happens? And so how long has it been, for a kid waiting for our birthday to come or for the holiday to arrive? Are we there yet? How long is it going to take? Are we on that road trip with our parents? Are we there yet is the question. So duration is one way that we sense and work with time. But it's also for us to explore different ways of visualizing time. we can experience the sound of a water droplet or whatever it is in the background there, and we can sense that duration. And so we listen to the song, we begin to wait for the next beat, the next occurrence to come. We wake up in the middle of the night and we look at the clock and say, okay, it's a couple of hours till sunrise. We anticipate, and that gives us a sense of duration, but we also have to understand that there are different ways of visualizing time. And of course, the tool that we most often use to visualize the passage of time is the clock. And here's a nice little moto clock there, and it shows us the time is 22:25. Now, this is a very interesting thing. Digital clocks like this one are very, very commonplace right now. In fact, I'm sitting here looking at a computer screen, and it's giving me a digital readout of what time it is, and so I can tell that accordingly. We've gotten used to this really since the advent of the space age, and the digitalization of timekeeping is pretty much the standard today. But we lose out a lot, and we miss out on key perceptions of time if we ignore the old-fashioned kinds of clocks. And the old-fashioned clocks were what we called analog ones. They didn't give us a set of numbers. Instead, they gave us a picture of what the time looked like. And so when we have an analog clock face, we have the shorthand and the longhand of the clock indicating how we're dividing things up. In this case, the shorter hand's pointing toward the top there at the 12 o'clock position, and the longer hand is pointing over just to the left of that, and that would be the 11 o'clock position if we were looking at hours, but in this case we translate that minute to minutes, and it tells us that it's 11:55. We don't know if that's AM or PM, by the way. When we look at the digital dial, 22:25 is definitely a PM number, but in the course of using a clock in an analog fashion, we kind of repeat that 12-hour sequence over and over again, applying it both to the morning hours and the evening hours as well. But it's important here to understand this image of time. The analog clock face is a key consideration in getting time right from W.D. Gann's perspective. The circular analog clock face, very, very important in working with time. Powerful time relationships can be visualized simply by dividing the circle by various numerical integers. Now, this is an incredibly powerful concept. It may seem ridiculously simple to start with, but it becomes increasingly complex, and it is one of the key things that W.D. Gann relied on. So we can take that analog clock face, or any circle. We can leave off all the little hash marks along the side if we wish, but we can simply divide it in half. The circle is 360 degrees. We divide that in half, and it gives us two slices of the pie, so to speak, each with an arc of 180 degrees. We call this a second harmonic division in time, and the dividing of any unit in time by the number 2 is very, very important in understanding W.D. Gann's work and applying it to the markets today. Of course, we can divide by 2. We can also divide by 3. And in this case, what we're simply doing is taking that 360 degrees and dividing it into 3 arcs of 120 degrees each as we look around the dial there. So we can use that and proceed through the number system. We can divide by 4, and the 360 divided by 4 gives us 90-degree angles, and we end up with a square inside the circle. Very, very familiar for those who have studied W.D. Gann's mystic diagrams and his tools for analyzing market price predictions and so forth. So it's a very intriguing kind of possibility. We can divide by 4 the circle of 360 degrees. We can divide by 5, and we get a pentagon kind of image inside. These angles, by the way, are 72 degrees. If you divide the 360 by 72, it comes out even a division by 5. And so this is a very, very powerful construct in market dynamics as well. And we can go on and on. We're going to stop at number 6 here, and we get, of course, 360 divided by 6. we ended up with 60-degree angles slicing up that entire division of the circle. So the question here is the circle on the clock face. As we first looked at it, we said, remember, we can use the shorthand of the dial and indicate hours. We can use the longhand of the dial and indicate minutes. And that longhand in this case is pointing at the 11 point on the dial, but it's because it's the longhand, we're going to do it with minutes, and so it becomes that division of 11/12 of the hour, which gives us 55 minutes. So we can apply this same principle here of dividing the circle to dividing it by hours. We can divide by days. We can by years. And Gann used all of these and understanding these key time relationships that can impact market movements. So it's just this real simple concept of divisions of the circle and looking at this as ways of perceiving the process of time and accounting for the passage of time in very specific ways is a key part of Gann's work. And of course, W.D. Gann had a lot of ways of working with the progressions of time and looking at it. Among his most famous tools is the analog computational tool known as the square of 9. And he used that for looking at the relationships between time and price in some very complex and extremely interesting and rewarding ways. And so this is one of the diagrams, and the usage of the square of 9 is something that we talked about in our original class, Gann Plan Trading Success 101, which is kind of an introductory course to understanding some core W.D. Gann principles. So this is an important thing for W.D. Gann, looking at these circular configurations and looking at ways of slicing and dicing or dividing up the circles in order to understand key numerical relationships and also angular relationships that empower us then to study time in a way that lets us relate it to price a little farther along the way. So W.D. Gann used principles of precise circular division to create tools just like the square of 9 that we just took a look at, as well as his wheel of 24, other charting tools. We have the universal clock today as a derivation of that. There are lots of tools that he used to indicate and visualize these intricate connections of time as a powerful, powerful tool for forecasting the markets. But he also paid a lot of attention to dates and to repetitions of dates, anniversaries in particular there. So he would look at specific calendar dates and then study the anniversaries of those times when there have been major reversals in the market, when the market has traded upward to hit a high and then all of a sudden started trading lower. That is a key reversal date. Gann would look at the calendar date and then look at the date coming up next year and the year after that to see if the market was going to do anything interesting on the anniversary of a significant market turning point. So he'd look at these major market reversals. He would also look at the solstices and the equinoxes, the beginnings of the 4 seasons of the year on the calendar there, the cardinal ingresses we call them, and other factors like eclipses, solar eclipses, lunar eclipses would be key factors in understanding potential turning points during the course of a year, which enriched Gann's awareness of time cycles and the ability to work with them. And as they say, that's not all. Right? Gann also taught his students it's important to study market dynamics from the perspective of multiple time frames in order to identify major trading opportunities. Multiple time frames, a very, very powerful concept. And essentially what we're doing, he would say, look, if you want to study a market and you're interested in trading on an intraday basis, doing some day trading, whatever, and speculating in a faster dynamic, then the first thing you want to do is keep your monthly charts. And he would encourage his students to track the price of a stock or a commodity using just price bars that would represent monthly price movements. And you followed enough months for a chart to start making sense. Well, you got 12 months out of a year, so you're probably going to need to follow it, 7, 5, 10 years, something like that, before you get enough bars on your chart to be able to have a chart that looks like anything. And then he would say, study the weekly charts, and then go to the daily charts. And so he encouraged his students to look at multiple time frames in order to get a different perspective. If a stock price is trending upward on a daily chart, that's great. If it's also trending up on a weekly chart, chart, then that's another level of confirmation. And then if it's also trending up longer term on the monthly chart, then we get an extra level. So time is very, very important in understanding the real depth of Gann's analysis. And the fact is there are lots of varied approaches and lots of points of comprehension that are included in Gann's understanding of time. There's a lot more there than we can cover in our brief time together here today, but we do want to mention that. And that because there's so much to understand there, that's one of the reasons that we're getting ready to open up enrollment in our brand new training program, Gann Plan Trading Success 102. And so a big part of this brand new training program is going to be to focus on Gann's understanding of time and how time plays an essential role in successful trading. It's a really powerful factor, and so it's going to be a major point of focus in this brand new high-level training program that we're getting ready to launch here very, very soon. So we'll be sharing more information on the new Gann course soon. We don't want to get too carried away with that here today, but simply let you know that it is in fact coming. For right now, we want to encourage you to begin by paying more attention to the critical role that time can play in your own personal fulfillment and your own personal success in the markets. It's a very, very powerful factor. So we want to encourage you to become aware of this and start working with it actively, because gaining a deep understanding of time is more than just knowing exactly when to get into a trade and when to get out of a trade. We talk about that as market timing, and that's of course a key part of why we're looking at time here as a critical factor in our studies of W.D. Gann. We want to know when the best time is to enter a trade, when the optimum time is to exit a trade, in order to get the biggest advantage in the markets through our trading experience. So gaining that is very, very important. But there's more to it than just that, more to it than enhancing the rewards that you can get with your trading. When you can master time in your analysis of the markets, the potential for trading success goes far beyond the execution of a single trade here and there. It is incredibly, incredibly powerful. It's truly enormous. And in our next video, they'll be coming to you very, very soon here. We're going to take a look at the ways that the price action can also impact the results that you get from this Gann-style trading that you can apply to any market, by the way, whether you're trading Forex or commodities, futures, individual stocks, whatever it may be, these same principles apply. That's one of the reasons why we wanted to make sure that you become aware of what's happening here in our studies with W.D. Gann, and we want to encourage you to stay connected. So next time we get together, we're going to talk about time a little bit, but also how it connects with price. We're following the priorities that W.D. Gann set for himself here. So make sure you're on our notification list if you haven't signed up already, because what happens is as soon as we let a new video drop, we send out an email to everybody on the list so that you'll know that it's available for viewing. Don't want you to miss out on any of them, and you certainly want to connect as soon as they're available. So here's the email or the URL. I'll go to bit.ly/free Gann videos. Gann, G-A-N-N, is capitalized in the middle of that. Everything else is lowercase. But if you haven't signed up already, that will get you to a link where we can grab your email and make sure that we send you all of the notifications as soon as they are available. So thanks so much for taking time to joining me here today. This is Tim Boss from FinancialCyclesWeekly.com, and this has been Gann Power. And we want to continue with our series of videos on W.D. Gann because there's a lot we can learn from Gann and apply it today for more rewarding trading.